G'day punters, here we are for a bit of Punting Melbourne Style. I'm joined as always by the punters punter, Dan Kelly.
Hello Potts.
How are you,
Good to see you, mate? Been a few weeks, but
yeah, that's it. So just on that subject, we're going to discuss it a bit more later so we can try and work it out for the punters. Like, it's been hard for us to get together lately. There's one thing or another bobbing up, so we are going to try as we get towards spring to get together, once a fortnight or something like that, and we just try and work it out. And there'll be some other things in the mix as well, but we'll discuss those when we get closer to the spring. But we've had a bit of a quiet patch over winter.
Well, that's right.
That's all it's been.
To dial down.
And we just need to make a few changes in our scheduling so we can
that's
make
right.
it a bit
Things
more regular
change.
for the punters.
Things change, don't they? So
They do.
after getting Monday, but we are on a beautiful winter's day in south of the border down in Mexico, mate.
That's it.
So the Emerald.
So just to kick off, DK, I just wanted to follow up on something that we've discussed previously, just about where the market is, the market percentages, and all that stuff that's happening, the prize money war, just in general. So it's got a lot of media about the increased prize money and all that sort of stuff, which is basically taking money out of the funds generated by betting markets. So redirecting it away from punters to prize money, which effectively owners and trainers and other participants. And there's also the tax component of it, with the point of consumption tax.
That's right, yeah.
And the product fees and so forth. So there's redirecting money from punters to those areas. So I just think as punters, it's not unreasonable to expect some information from the administrators as to what impact that is having. So they get on there and they talk about all the benefits of this increased prize money, and the market percentage and the way the markets are operating gets a tiny fraction of conversation, but it doesn't really get discussed in the depth that we think about it, for instance, and so forth. So what I think should happen, what I would do if I was in that job at Racing Victoria, is the following, and whether someone's actually already doing it or whether they'd have to take it up, and then whether they'd be prepared to share it with punters is another question altogether. But I certainly think they should. I almost think they owe it to punters to explain to them the impacts of these changes that have been made. So I think what should happen is, for every race category, they should be looking at what the average turnover is, what the prize money was previously, so they can look at it season by season or however they want to look at it. So what the prize money was, what it is under the new changes. So that goes from everything from maidens through to Group 1s and the new races where they've funneled a lot of this money to. So what's the prize money allocation for each race? What's the betting turnover on it? What's the market percentage? What's the return to the industry in the various product fees and taxes? So if just say you've got a race that used to be a $100,000 race and is now a $200,000 race, so they've moved $100,000 away from punters into prize money. What was the turnover when it was a $100,000 race? What's the turnover now? What's the point of consumption tax? What's the product fees? Has the return to the industry increased as a result of these changes? Because why I would want them to include the market percentage in that analysis, and I'm not just talking about the SP, I'm also talking about the top fluck. They should be monitoring very closely what's happening with the top fluck and the SP, and is that having an impact on turnover? Because I can just speak for myself when I'm talking about facts. My turnover is being impacted, I won't say dramatically, I'll say reasonably. And it's because I'm betting in fewer races, and there are a lot more races where I'm betting at the lower end of my scale of turnover, and the ones where I push it to the limit are reducing slightly. But the big change is I'm having to eliminate more races because there's more marginal races where it's really, previously it was probably break even betting into those market percentages over the full course of the market. Now it's actually costing me money to bet in them, so I'm having to eliminate them and stay out of more races.
Yeah, I think that's a common thing. Just looking at the racing guys on Twitter who are at the sharper end of the market, that seems to be a common theme amongst it's hard to get your turnover up in this era. But I think you've got to with the new odds and evens bet and everything aimed at the recreational end of the market, and I think you've got to maybe have worked for a corporate, like we were lucky to, Mark Roden and I, Sportsbet, to see the power of the recreational dollar.
Yeah.
And that's what it's 80% or 85 or 90% of the turnover and of the money. So it's you can see why they sort of, okay, we listen to the sharper end of the market, they're pretty loud, but we're going ahead with what we're doing because the recreational dollar is king, and that's where they're getting most of the turnover. And a lot of those races they're bumping up, I think, because of the taxation. If they can get them up, isn't it, to a certain level, they tax the bookies even more on a million or a $500,000 race or a $1 million or a certain race day, don't they? The taxation, that's one of the reasons they pump them up. But
so I fully accept that. I accept that the recreational money that floods in late just overwhelms the harder, tough money, right? So that's okay. So I'm saying that if they do this analysis and they can show to punters, look, the market percentage has increased 3% or whatever it might be over a period of time, but it's not affecting turnover, and the return to the industry via the product fees and the point of consumption tax is actually growing or the same or whatever it is. Like I'm not predicting anything. I'm just saying they should be monitoring these things extremely closely. So if there is any change in the return to the industry, whether it's increased, decreased or the same, that they know immediately. They know as soon as they possibly can. What I'm trying to suggest in this, by making this suggestion, is you don't want to be 2 years behind this. You don't want to get 2 years down the track and say, half of our turnover's gone.
You'd like it broken up in the annual report or something like that?
Yeah, or published once a month or something, some sort of historical analysis of when maidens were 35,000, the market percentage was this, the turnover was this, the return to the industry in product fees and taxes was this, and this is what's happening now on a month-by-month basis. So, like I know there's a lot of work in the back of that, but just to publish something once a month or once a quarter or something that provides punters with some sort of indication as to what's happening in the marketplace because of these changes. Not just, what I don't want to see happen is that they're sitting back just hoping that punters just keep betting and there's no change.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are people in those, whether it's Racing Victoria or all the clubs, there certainly is at the MRC, because I've seen some of the reports they do, that are closely monitoring turnover and assessing what impact it has. And another thing they could look at as well, that they need to be on top of, is the changes in their track preparation policy. They want to make sure that doesn't have an impact as well. It could.
That's right. That's something that's happened.
I'm just saying that whoever's responsible for this, please monitor it in real time, very closely. If possible, publish some of the figures so people like Richard Irvine and us and others can spread it and say, look, even though there's been some changes in the market, there's turnover's still growing, or it's not, or whatever.
That's what we want, to grow the game. That's what we all want, you know.
And then we can all feel a bit more comfortable one way or another that A, the game's not slowly evaporating, and B, if there is a problem, that it's going to be addressed really quickly, not it's going to go on for ages before it's addressed.
Yeah. So come to the head. Anyway. All right. Well,
that was my point. So just now, in regards to turnover and the market percentage, that sort of stuff, you had some interesting input from our man Scoot at Betfair there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, no. That's right. I don't know if people saw it on. It was on, I think, Dicko's preview show. Nick Heathcote was on there on Thursday night or Friday, whenever they released it, and discussing what's called a synthetic hold, which is the best price across all runners at a given moment in time of the market.
So it's basically top flight from the time the market goes up till it jumps.
Yeah. So
it's quite complex because you have to make adjustments for deductions and so forth.
And things like that. But so it's, people complaining, we're betting into high percentage markets, but they are high percentage markets. But if you can pick off at the different times in the market when to put your bets on, then you're not betting into 130. You're betting into much less. And it's talking about being able to maximise percentage, across the life of each market, which is what we obviously try and do.
Yeah.
But there's early betting with things you think might go up early, and then there's obviously things you'll think, I think the models will miss or they'll drift late. So you wait for Betfair to get loose late and things, and you can sort of betting to a small percentage, you know,
Yeah,
which has obviously got to help.
Yeah, the opportunities are still there. Racing's still the greatest game there is.
Yep.
That's why it survived through centuries and decades of all sorts of questionable administration, because it's such an exciting game, and there's so many variables that even at 130% or whatever, you can still find holes in it because there are so many variables, and it's really about how much work you want to put into it. So, yeah, no, absolutely, there are still opportunities there, but the game is getting tighter because they're leaving that higher market percentage in the market longer.
Yeah, that's
It's
for
just
2
taking
days or something. Yeah, that's right.
So they put the markets up early. They get
knocked
into shape, and then they stay at basically 125 to 130 for a couple of days, or a day, depending on which market it is. Then the last 5 minutes, things get active.
You get active again. Yeah. So
It's
all about adjusting that, and you learn over time what horses and the mistakes you make, taking one early and watching it go express, and you've got to say to yourself, why did that get easy? Maybe it was going to get back good. If I've got a horse I like and it's going to get back a bit, I think I'll wait. There are things that can tend to drift on Betfair late, get a good price. Sometimes you get a really good price. Roughies are good on Betfair, but things that map well, got a good jockey, got a good barrier, and you think, oh, there's a few. I think I'll like this, and a few others will like it. Maybe it's a time to take an early price. So you just learn over time. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Learn from mistakes and things. Anyway, but
so we had a
we had a question on that from Glenn White. I think it was Glenn about market percentage. Oh, you probably Glenn White. Yeah, you've got one of me on Twitter about market percentage and pricing up. The sharp end of the market, like just playing with that.
So I think I'm paraphrasing here, so if I remember correctly, Glenn's question was, is there a way or a shortcut to just price the runners that are under $10 at a lower percentage? Basically the question.
Is it worth it? Can you make money out of it?
So Glenn, I just went back and looked at Flemington last Saturday. If I eliminated all the runners in my market that were over $10, it was between anywhere across the 9 races between 5 runners and 13 runners, so it was quite a gap. And the amount of percentage held in those runners was anywhere between, I think the lowest was 18 and the highest was 60, I think, or it might have been, it was a high, in that area. So like in one race, for instance, I had 13 runners at $10 or more in the race Sylvia's Mother.
That's right.
So I marked Sylvia's Mother 6-4 or whatever I marked it.
Most of them out.
Nothing else. I only had one other horse under $10, right? So there you go. Anyway, so is there a shortcut? Well, there's no perfect solution. So you're trying to take a shortcut, so that's going to at times create problems. I would think, and it depends. The other part that's missing from your question, Glenn, is when you're doing it, because the answer would be different if you're trying to price those runners under $10 on. We're talking about a Saturday meeting on Wednesday night, as opposed to if you're doing it on Saturday morning, or if you're doing it on Friday, because the market changes. So you would have, by doing that, what you're asking, eliminating all the runners over $10, you would have eliminated 3 winners on Saturday. So they were
Kentucky Breeze,
Prezado, and Shakora. Yeah. So in the case of Shakora and Kentucky Breeze, they were both 20s in the early market, and they ran close to $10.
Yeah,
so
20.
So it depends when you did that, as to whether you would have eliminated them or not. But so just generally speaking, I'm saying particularly if you're doing it on Saturday morning and the anomalies of a lot of the anomalies have already been beaten out of the market, I would just collect the runners that are over 50 to 1 as a group and just take out 1% for each of them. So if there's 5 of them, just take out 5% for them. Then I would collect the rest of the runners that are between $26 and $51, take out 2% for them. And the runners between $11 and $26, I would just take out a blanket 5% for them.
Oh.
It'll have some anomalies because some of those,
as you said, it's this whole caper is about, there's no rhyme or reason.
So if you've got 3 in that $11 to $26 range, I'm saying that's 15%. Then 2 of each of the other categories, that's another 6. So then you might do your market for your single figure runners at 79%. If I've done the maths right in my head there. I hope that helps, Glenn. Anyway,
it's good as gold.
Tell you what, DK, we're right on the 15-minute mark, so let's cut off there.
All right.
We'll come back for part 2.
All right, sounds good.